Welcome to today's webinar, today's BioIT World webinar on the subject of next-gen data management for next-gen life sciences. We are sponsored by Quantum StoreNext, about which you will be hearing more in a little while. Before I introduce the first of today's three speakers, let me just set the stage for everybody. So, next-generation sequencing and other forms of data generation, medical imaging, for example, are, as you all know, causing a radical disruptive change in the life sciences. These new technologies are producing terabytes of data per week, in some cases even per day. And while much of our attention is deservedly on the specific features and capabilities of these new platforms, the task of organizations to manage and store this data deluge grows more and more challenging. Genome centers are already storing petabytes of next-gen sequence data, and one has even talked recently of reaching the 1 exabyte threshold within a few years, which is simply astonishing. So as these data volumes continue to grow to almost ridiculous levels, the task of managing next-gen data through their life cycle can consume a tremendous amount of staff and an organization's time and resources. That's really the subject of today's web symposium. We're going to look at some of these issues and focus on one solution in particular, a simplified management of data through tiers ensuring high-performance workflows are not interrupted and storage resources are used most efficiently. Before we get into some of the specifics of those specific storage solutions, we're going to sort of set the scene with the first of our three speakers. In a little while, you'll hear from Chris Duffy, who is the Product Marketing Manager for StoreNext at Quantum. And we'll also be hearing from Sean Levy, who's an investigator, faculty investigator, and the director of the Genomics Services Laboratory at the Hudson Alpha Institute for Biotechnology in Huntsville, Alabama. First off, however, I am delighted to welcome an old friend and former colleague, Salvatore Salamoni. Sal is a physicist by training, but has been writing about science and IT issues for a couple of decades now, for a number of leading life sciences and IT publications, including BioIT World. He was one of the founding senior editors at BioIT World back in 2002, and is still a regular freelance contributor to the magazine and other parts of our business. He's the author of numerous white papers and knows more than most about the issues life science organizations face in grappling with today's IT demands. So Sal, delighted to hear from you again, and I'm going to pass the baton over to you now.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Kevin, and it's a pleasure to be here. When I was asked to do this, I guess when everyone says they're looking at the next-gen data management, I guess the first question that always would come to my mind is, what's wrong with the current data management? And it turns out, as Kevin has alluded to, that there's some issues with the volume of data, but it's not just the volume, it's also how the data is being used. That's changing why we need to look at the data management issues a little more carefully. So some of this, I think, is pretty well known by everyone in the business, but there's first the issue of just raw growth of data. It's everything from new mass spectrometers, microarrays, even the newer generation of electron microscopes. Everything's putting out much more data per experiment. But then the real killers seem to be the next-gen sequencers. And I'll get into some of the real details.